Hello. In the Crown of Aragon 639 years ago, it was June 3rd, 1387. My name is Jonathan Seyfried. I'm a PhD candidate in history at the University of New Mexico. And this is the Historian's Notebook, a podcast about how history gets made. Season 1 is titled Molt Cara Companiona. We're looking at a document from each day of the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violant de Bar. Let's begin today's document. Today's document is from one of Violant's registers. It's register 1822, and it's labeled Commune et Curiae, so the common documents and the court documents. Yesterday's was a document from Joan's Commune register, so he doesn't combine the Commune and the Curiae, and I don't know why. So, okay, we've got a document here that's within a bunch that, like I was saying yesterday, I just don't think Violant really had much of a hand in, at least at a detailed level. And I think we can really see that happening in the apparatus for today's document. So the first line has 3 names for the addressees, at least I think. I think that after Yolans de Gracia, etc., we have the capital N, which indicates a name, Nomer, and then a surname, Cavhell or Cavhell, and then a title, a profession, Físico, so a doctor. And then I think we've got the beginning of the second name, Naçan Marveç. Okay, and then we have et, and then Samueli. Then I think that this is actually an abbreviation for something like Shimone or Shimone, but I'm not quite sure how to expand the X, M, O, and what looks like an E. I'm pretty sure that's an E. Yeah, so it's not a 100% on that one, but after thinking about the interchangeability between X and CH and SH, I kind of landed on Shimone as this, because there is also a macron over the last part of the name there. And then we're given more information about who these 3 people are. They are Judaeis Valenciam, so they are Jews of Valencia. And what we can see in this document is that once again we are looking at how the monarchs of the Crown of Aragon were directly in charge of a lot of matters having to do with the governance and taxation of the aljamas, the religious minority communities of Jews and Muslims in provinces and towns all over the Crown of Aragon. The probata for this document reads Pedro de Besanta ex pro, and I think that that's an abbreviation for provisione, factum in concilio, or conciliaro maybe? So this is now accessible to me. It wasn't before. Pedro de Besant, the scribe, is saying that this document was from the provision made by, or made in, the council. So the council met and produced this. And then it looks like the person who initiated its writing, signed it, was De Ponte, whose name appears at the very end of the text block of the letter. And I think what we see before that is either, well, it's a V, it's not a B, so it's different than what we're going to look at in just a sec, but it's a V, something like VDIT, like seen by, or it could be something like Vice Chancellor, like an abbreviation for VK Cancellarium. Not quite sure what we are going to expand. That looks like an open top A above the V right there. Also notice how this particular scribe had a penchant for spelling out certain parts of the date. So he, instead of just writing M for the 1000 in the date, wanted to write millennino. And then at the end, instead of the Roman numeral for 7, he wanted to spell out septimo. So that's per descent for you, the scribe. All right, let's get into the content of this letter. It's in Latin, and this register was one that I put through the OpenClaw pipeline, but the agentic AI process here generated something that I think was of, like, I think it was of no use at all. I'm trying to think of, like, in what way was it useful as I was looking at it, and it really just got so much wrong. It really struggles with the Latin. There are a lot of little wormholes in this document, but I don't think that would really stop the agentic AI process from coming up with a good transcription if the document was in Catalan or Aragonese. So, yeah, the Latin, that agentic AI process, I think, just is not good enough. And in fact, it doesn't even pick up a lot of the names. So really, I just kind of set that aside and just worked on this by myself. I didn't, for this one, feel like I needed to do my own sort of longer process with Gemini and Claude to get something better, because I could just look through the words and I could figure out that this wasn't really going to be getting into co-rule, my main research question, all that much, at least directly. So what I'm doing is just going to note the generalities of this document, and later on I can come back to it if it seems like it's going to be one that is going to help me with my research question. So one of the major clues in this document is in the second line, and we have the end of the greeting at the beginning of the second line, so gratiam suam, period, and then a capital C, cum procuratore fiscali nostra curiae. So our procurator of our treasury, our budget, our fiscal procurator. All right, then we have of our court, curiae. All right, so then we have instantiae et ali quibus aliis ad hentibus. Yeah, I'm not sure what all that amounts to, but then we have a word, inquisitoram fuit. All right, so there's been an inquisition, an inquiry into something monetary related. And then in the third line, we've got et, a little bit in, we've got et petitio criminalis oblata occasione quius. So there is some kind of criminality here, criminalis, and that has initiated this communication to these 3 people, members of the Jewish aljama in Valencia, and they are being told, get your butts to Barcelona. So in line 5, we have the time period, infra quinquagesimo in 15 days. In 15 days, facta presentazione per presencia. So they have to personally present themselves within 15 days. They have to get to Barcelona. And in the next line says who they're going to meet with. They are going to meet the Cancelario Nostro Bernardas de Ponte. Yes, look at that. A doctor of law, legum doctore, and they're going to work out what was done wrong and who's going to be punished and what's going to happen. Now, remember de Ponte? Yeah, just from the end of the text block there. So de Ponte, Bernardo de Ponte, he is writing to these three people in Valencia about himself. So he's writing in the Queen's voice, but he's saying, you need to come see me, and then he's signing the document. So it's what a rigmarole. I mean, this is really, so it's the authority of the Queen, but the Queen has not signed the document. It's the Chancellor, de Ponte, who has signed the document, but he, as he's writing it, refers to himself as if the Queen was writing it. And there you have the nation state. So really what we're witnessing here is the emergence of the voice of the state. So you know how you get like a letter from some government entity, like say you're being audited by the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service of the United States government. You are getting a letter from the office, the Internal Revenue Service. It might be signed by a person, but it really is that you're getting an IRS audit. You're not getting audited by an individual dude or whatever. You're getting audited by the state entity. And so we're seeing the emergence of that here when the state entity is the Queen, but the person is the Chancellor who they're actually going to talk to, the person they're going to talk to. So it's confusing because the office is also a person at this time. And so what we're seeing is like the emergence of this bureaucratic voice that to us is very normal in the modern era, but in the Middle Ages was being conceptualized. So I think this has actually taken quite an interesting turn into the history of the state, the sociology of the government and government institutions as they grew over time. And also I have to throw in a caveat, which is that I could be wrong about this. Like, it could be that I'm over-interpreting here, and maybe someone who's done a bit more of a careful study of the emergence of the bureaucracy and the state would want to make some corrections, maybe minor corrections, maybe major corrections to what I just laid out there. So treat that as provisional. And I think really the scholar to go to for understanding the emergence of the state and its bureaucracy in the Crown of Aragon during this time is absolutely Marta van Lantingham. And I'll put a link or a mention of her, a citation is what I'm trying to say, a citation to her book in the episode page on the website. All right, let's see. What else do I need to bring out from this document? I think we have pretty much covered it. I did want to quickly mention that I know that there was a June 3rd document from Joanne that we had noticed in our discussion of the June 2nd document yesterday, but I'm trying to keep documents from Violant appearing in the podcast for these couple weeks here, because we are in a moment where we hardly have any letters that we can really confidently say Violant composed or had a hand in composing during this 2-week period. It's very, I'm not quite sure what to make of it, the absence, but I did a lot of looking through Violant's registers, the ones that we've been using quite a lot in the last month, and there is just hardly anything. I think we've got maybe one document in this 2-week period that we can say Violant is certainly present in its composition and authorship. And what we have for the most part are documents like this during the month of June, really like overall the whole month, where it's like Violant's chancellor and court officials are running the operation, and maybe Violant is just like chilling out after that really stressful month of May. I mean, talk about like emotional intensity and anxiety over the possible end of her reign and widowhood. My goodness, like, if I were Violant, I would take a break too. If it seemed like Joan was out of the woods and that he really was stable and not going to die the next day, and you could be kind of sure that he'd last for a good little while, yeah, just take a break from letter writing for a little while. Take a break from governance. Let the court officials have some time to just do it on their own. And just go, read some literature, listen to some music. Yeah, that's what I think is going on. But, we'll just kind of keep monitoring the documents that we do have for this period of time. And then once we get into July, the writing from Violant resumes in stride. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Historian's Notebook, Season 1, Molt Cara Compagnona. If you are leaving with more questions than you arrived with, I've done my job. Remember, the motto of The Historian's Notebook is dissatisfaction guaranteed. Visit the website to see an image of today's document and additional show notes, and listen again tomorrow to hear about the next day in the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violante de Bar. In the meantime, take care.